This is it, everybody. Today, it's my last attempt at turning these New Orleans Saints into a Super Bowl champion. What began as a 1-16 team has come pretty far in the 4 years I've been building. We've now made the playoffs in 2 consecutive years and just picked up our first playoff win. But there's clearly something missing for us to have the playoff success that we're looking for, so I have a plan for how I want to attack this coming off season. I love what we've built here with the offense, drafting Von Bennett and Antoine Bruce, and building around Eli rushing. But to me, looking at our inability to run the ball well in the postseason, I'd like to solidify the offensive line a little bit better. These ratings all are really solid, but keep in mind a lot of these boosts are temporary. So I feel like maybe one more upgrade is in order for the O-line, and maybe we can find a way with our picks to find a difference maker defensively. At whatever position we can find a player. I think that we've done a good job acquiring talent. There's Julius Griffith and Deshaun Godwin, last year's first round pick. But I'm thinking this year in the secondary, we go and try to make a trade that gives us somebody that puts us over the top. I explored a couple moves during the season this past episode, but trading for superstar development players is really difficult. So if I could find a star dev player that can make a difference, that would be perfect. But welcome in, everybody. This is going to be our finale with the New Orleans Saints in this worst team rebuild. I've enjoyed doing this little series. And today we see if I can actually succeed for the first time in one of these. I've yet to win a Super Bowl in my worst team rebuild attempts. I did see some of you curious about how Jerry Jones had performed this year after I passed on him in the draft. He turned out to have star development and the exact skill set I was looking for at safety, but it doesn't seem that he had like this dominant rookie year or anything, but he did play a fair amount for the Chargers. So we've got one more offseason to go, and we're going to start looking at some of these upgrades for our player personnel, because I think that we've got to go make a big trade today. Maybe a couple. So we're dumping basically all of our points in this trades portion now. I'm not going to do it for the trading up in the draft, because I know we're not going to be... Well, we could. But if I have it my way, what I'll probably do is trade away some of the early picks and really go all in here to wrap up this season and this series. I'm hoping that players are starting to view Eli rushing as a franchise quarterback and that this team is a legitimate championship contender, because I think we are. And free agency hasn't been all that kind to us in this series, and we really need some off-season victories this year. And we're all the way back to the Dallas Cowboys being the Super Bowl champs once again. We've gotten lucky with retirements, and again this offseason we don't lose anybody to retirement. Our coaching staff also remains intact. We got more cap space than we know what to do with. However, we're going to probably have to use the franchise tag on Eli rushing, which could make things a little tricky because Chris Olave is also set to be a free agent, but maybe regression has knocked him down to where we got to view him as a very different caliber player. He lost 27 points this year and is a true 84 overall. I feel like we've got to look at what else is there on the open market. I say we tag Eli rushing because the quarterback spot is so vital, and then we see what else is out there. But this will cost us $55 million on the tag. But we're successful in re-signing Callum Swanson at linebacker. Oh, Devin Turner had interest, and he did not take the fair offer, so that's going to go to free agency. We also have Sal Solano as a free agent, and I already talked about maybe trying to upgrade along the O-line, so I might look at what else is available. I think we could offer to Solano and get him back later, so we'll hold off for now. Julius Brents went down to 78. That's a pretty steep loss for him. So I do think we've got to look to see what big trade can be made when it comes to the secondary. Steve Johnson, would you pick up this option? No way. And then Tyreek Stevenson has also regressed a lot, so there could be a lot of turnover at cornerback, which really worries me. Somehow Kwity Paye went from interested last year to not interested now, but we managed to figure out the pass rush situation a year ago, so a lot of these players are simply going to be let go. I'll look to bring back Myrick. He's an okay kind of last resort backup tackle that I think could start in a pinch. Maybe this move's a little surprising, but if we're going to move on from Olave, I don't want to lose too much of our depth at receiver. And Ben Johnston, he put up some good numbers a year ago, and I'd like to sign him to this 3-year deal. In a normal franchise, I probably wouldn't sign him to a long-term contract, but I'm trying to make sure year 5 has as few points of failure as possible. And that also means I'll invest in backup quarterback. Yo, wait a minute here. Normal on Godwin, he just lost a bunch of development. He went down 2 development levels. I put him back at star development because that's just ridiculous to already put him down to normal after such a good season. I'm okay if you lose 1, just rebalancing things, but we go back to star dev on him, and I think we're almost ready here for free agency. I do want to give one more offer to Doug Watford. He's just been a solid starter, and I don't want any more spots to have to address. So we will get him under contract and still have plenty of money if players actually want to come here now. All right, moment of truth here in free agency. And let's see, the top, we got Danny Rhodes. So he's an 84 overall tackle. That would fit with us really well. Teams aren't interested in him right now. And then Solano doesn't have offers, so we could probably give him something he'd like. Jameson Williams would not be a bad option, especially with the big play upside he provides. Occasionally in the simulating, you'll run into those long touchdowns that players like Williams will allow you to get. And then we probably have to look at secondary, Chester Bryant, and then still work that trade market a little bit. So this sets up, I'd say, better than most off seasons. I have no idea why I keep going into these off seasons and it already has 1 out of 5 negotiations. So it might limit me to only giving out 4 offers right now, which I'm not too happy with. 84 star versus a 25 normal. Because of our timetable, I've got to go with Danny Rhodes here. This guy's got some conflicting motivations too. He really wants to be somewhere with warm weather, but also close to home. So you guys tell me where the warm weather is close to Connecticut, and we'll find the perfect spot for Danny. But it looks like he's willing to at least consider one of our offers here. So we're going to offer him $13 million and hope that he just signs it right there. Oh, and this is my chance to get an LSU DB here in New Orleans after all. So a 2-year offer for Chester Bryant. And because the market doesn't have anybody better and this contract is so reasonable, I do want to bring back Solano. We're also going to get a lot more prepared this year when it comes to our backup running back, and give me all the Devon A-Chain right here. Let's get some explosiveness in the backfield. If we got to play a backup, I'd rather it be someone like A-Chain than someone who's going to get me 3.2 yards a carry. So that's the max offers that I can make right now, and all 4 made decisions. We got all of them, so that's a really good start to the offseason. 20 teams want Jameson Williams. What are the chances we could win this? I don't like it. Randall Vincent's a lot more realistic, and he's got like the same skill set, but I want to give an offer to Williams. He's also a mentor, so there's a little extra value there, and I'm going to make this a really strong 2-year deal. Got to come out swinging here if I want to beat 20 teams. So 2 years, $26 million. I think that's a sweet deal. Before we go any further, though, it's time to explore our options at corner. We tried for Wayne Smith last year. It was ridiculous. I wonder if the trade finder would even spit anything out. He's an X factor now, and it's just not going to happen for a player on that level. I don't know if this is going to be out of reach, but Patrick Surtain is now a star dev player and closer to the end of his career. So will the Broncos do some business? Yeah, just give us your 1 and your breakout running back. Yeah, that's an option. Or 2 1s, a 2, 3, 5. So that is an option. Like, I think I'm very willing here to, trade the future picks to try and make it all happen for this year. And if I fail, I'm thinking in this run, I might turn everything like automatic and just sim a couple years forward and see if the team would do anything after our year 5. But that still is steep. But we're getting somewhere. If we just drop the standards a little bit, maybe in the higher 80s, and stay in that star dev range. Here we go. Greg Norwood. He's got some interception production. High 80s overall star dev. I feel like that won't cost us 2 first-round picks. They want defensive help, and we just got our defense in a spot I'm happy with, so I don't really want to give up a lot of starting caliber players. Tyrone Thorne, though. That is interesting. We have Godwin, who played really well, but there's just no depth. That's the issue. And I think everybody's listed at their proper positions, too, so that seems a bit out of reach. So I have an offer I'm working up right here that includes a 1 in Steve Johnson. If I throw in Jonathan Camp, they really don't like him. This would be the future one as well, not even the current one. This is close. And we have a deal. We send them Steve Johnson. They can try to give him a career. He's a 76 overall entering year 4. Then our next year's first round pick in this year's second. So a lot to give up, but we acquire a veteran 86 overall corner to give us that boost in the secondary. And it didn't cost us Camp. I pulled him from the offer, replaced it with a 2, so we didn't give up a starter. And we still have a first round pick this year, so we can either look at what the draft will give us, we still could use a receiver, or just look at more trade options. And these safeties are getting really big boosts too. They're only 75 overall, and I might want to look at safety with our next move after getting a couple corners in the mid 80s. So is it better to move up with our first round pick or try and trade that pick away? There are 3 first round projected safeties. I would need someone who can just walk right into a starting role. So Jamie Clay out of UCLA has B-man coverage, C-zone coverage. The athleticism looks average to above average, solid. And I think he would probably be a day 1 starter. But I also feel like if you're willing to give up a first round pick, you might end up with a higher caliber player right away. So we're going to look at our options, but I think this is a really promising start. I could offer to Jordan Battle here. Is a 31-year-old that's 79 going to move the needle for us, though, is what I ask. Seems like a marginal upgrade. I really should look at kicker as well. Jake Moody has 99 kick power and accuracy, so no one's given him an offer. I'm going to try to just give him a $7 million offer here that he can't refuse. I'm also going to give an offer here to Dion Dawson, who's just a pure power rusher, and it sure seems like I'm having more luck with power rushers than finesse lately. He's an average guy who can come off the bench at least and give us some depth because we don't have much there. So those get evaluated, and Moody signs, and so does Dawson. So we could not go get receiver Jamison Williams then. He ends up going to the Jaguars, who I think offered a little bit less, but he was a lot more interested in going there. So receiver remains around the top of our needs. And obviously we didn't bring back Olave, who finds himself now in Seattle. Here's a look at the wide receiver class, because we might have to look to the draft here as well, unless we want to keep trading, and I'm open to doing that. Most of these classes give you a bunch of choices in the first few rounds. Rashawn Wilbon ran a 4.37, has elite strength. You see a lot of physical archetypes here early in the draft in this game is what I'm noticing. Not as many like prolific route runners, but catching traffic, release. When those are good right off the bat, I'm pretty confident that the rest is going to check out okay. Deshaun Bayless, a really solid athlete. He went 4.43, had elite jumping, great strength, good acceleration. So you get deep and short route running in his case, spec catch. So I need some more info on him. And we pick at 23 as well, so it might be tough to get a difference maker there unless these receivers check out, and I still keep this pick. All right, Vincent has a history here of production. He's available in free agency, so I want to make sure we at least get one more receiver in here, a veteran, in case things don't go the way I plan. So I'm going to have to bump this up probably to like $8 million. And I'm also just going to keep trying to bring in backup edge rushers, and Isaiah Foskey gets an offer. All right, Vincent hasn't chosen yet. 2 teams in the hunt, and we did bring back Foskey. All right, we got Vincent moving on to stage 2, which leaves us with around $31 million in cap space. And now maybe we can look to see if there's still another move we can make. Everybody wants Antoine Bruce, of course. Or the first round pick plus some. I think I'm willing to trade the first round pick instead of just dealing with something in the 20s there. We're taking the Rams approach, I think. And they don't like our secondary players. I'd be willing to trade them back, unfortunately. Camp doesn't really do anything. The first round pick gets you awful close, though. And we finally have a deal here with the Vikings. We had to send them a first-round pick, a future third, 2 sixth-round picks, and running back Rayshawn Boston. I tried a number of different players in there, including Jonathan Camp and some other backups. Boston appeared to be their favorite, so we'll find a different third running back. But that is going to solidify this defense and give us 3 secondary additions. I think we do an adequate job of replacing Julius Brents and trying to take this defense a step further even. Norwood and Bryant are here, and now we add Peter Ellis to the mix. So Ellis isn't the hybrid safety, but he's a really high-level zone defender, good tackling, good speed. So perfect player for us to go and get. Coming off the first 2 interceptions in his NFL career. He had low morale, too, with the Vikings, so we end up adding a really good safety. This means our first pick in the draft this year is not coming until the 3rd round, and there, I'm wondering if there'll be a receiver left that can at least contribute. I'm not sure I like these receivers a lot as I dive into some of the profiles. Looking for good route running, and these archetypes don't often give it to you. So I did the scouting a little bit different this time around for the private workouts, looking to find a receiver we can target a little bit later. So we start out here, Nick Lawrence. He is a 3rd to 4th round talent. He might be an option with that first pick of ours in the 3rd round. And I'm not looking for like a huge contributor, but somebody who can at least handle their business. And I feel like Lawrence would be a decent option, although he doesn't have a skill that really stands out yet. Nelson Jones has the same talent grade. He's a 6'4" physical receiver. We're going to get, 4.5-ish speed. It's decent. And he has good hands, release, spec catch. There's stuff to work with there. And last, we got Marcus Robinson, who's going to have a lower grade than those other 2. Different archetype as well. He's a slot receiver, can run some routes. But the other guys have better talent grades. So we'll see how the board falls. Maybe receivers not even where we end up going. But that's where I wanted to see if we could find a value. But I don't think there's a whole lot that we need to do. Like with Johnston and then Vincent, we can probably roll into the offseason or the real season with this offense in place. We've got the top receiver, the top running back. I think things fit. We have a good offensive line. And then on defense, secondary looks to be a lot more talented. We built this front 7 primarily through the draft. I feel like the team is pretty complete. It's just if we can find a little extra, it's all obviously nice. So we're starting off by simulating all the way to the 3rd round. There are some receivers that are here I wasn't sure would make it. Going to start going through some profiles here. Carlos Bassi. Usually these receivers fall for very good reasons. However, be short, be deep route running. You got some A to C ranges here. Maybe the third round isn't a bad place to take him. The other guys didn't exactly wow us athletically, so Bassi probably is a more higher upside player. Typically, though, when you find these guys who slide later than their projection, how often do those guys have hidden development? I feel like they never do. And there's going to be a run here at wide receiver with 8 of the top 9 players at the position. They're going to fly off the board fast. I feel like it's so obvious that Marquise Stapleton's going to be really good. You get top-tier athleticism here at the position. You get solid-looking pass blocking, A awareness. He'd be the BPA from what I've seen. And then at tight end, even Stephen Carroll looks intriguing. He's got great speed, A catching, B deep route running, B medium, A short. Can't really go wrong here. I almost wonder if it could be more advantageous to add a tight end instead of a receiver if we know we're probably drafting our 4th best receiver no matter who we take. If all we care about is finding high upside, I think there's a lot better chance Carroll moves the needle more than any of these receivers do. Receiver, safety, guard. The receivers aren't flying off the board quite as quickly as I expected. It's still every position pretty much getting addressed. And I didn't see that any of those receivers were necessarily worth trading up for. Stephen Carroll does go a bit earlier than I expected. He was in like the 20s on the available board, but I think he ended up being the top tight end there. And then Stapleton goes. Those might have been the guys to really chase here and move up the board for. So I'm not expecting this to be like a home run pick, but I think we're just going to end the fall then for Carlos Bassi. Can pretty much guarantee he's going to have normal dev, but it'll give us another receiver who has some route running capabilities. F catching is what it is. Usually it's not quite as detrimental as it seems here when you see the grade. We're going to take Bassi and see if he can at least contribute. I'm going to take a chance here on Thomas Wallace and see if we can add a pass rusher, but at this stage, we're probably not taking anybody that really helps our chances at a Super Bowl this year. Wow, we end up doubling up at receiver, and one of my private workout players, Nelson Jones, ends up with hidden development. So that should give us enough receivers, hopefully. Receiver was so deep, by the way, like there were still 8 receivers or so listed above him on the available board at the position. And I just took him because his grade was already a 3 to 4, and it was the 6th round. It's not a flashy class, and nobody made it to 70 overall. We took 2 69 overall receivers. Here's Nelson Jones, though, with the hidden development, and maybe we'll get him enough playing time to where he ends up contributing early on. Not a great athlete, but he can catch the ball, gets off the line. Not a great route runner. That'll work, though. And then we had Carlos Bassi, also at 69 overall, who's a better overall route runner, but he's got, what the other receiver did well, Bassi does poorly. He does have 99 spec catch, though. I think I probably missed out there in the 3rd round, not trading up. I'm just curious if those players had hidden development is all. Stephen Carroll. Yeah, hidden development 76. That's the pick that would have actually given us like a starter to go out there and try to move the needle for the offense. That would have been big. So I can find the players sometimes. I just don't always do what I have to do to take them. Stapleton, it's going to be hidden dev. Like that's a lock. When you find a 3rd rounder that just looks way too good to be a 3rd rounder, they have hidden dev every time. Here's the preseason numbers. 7 touchdowns for Eli rushing. I think he's ready. I mean, that's got to be like a record for preseason touchdowns here in these rebuilds, especially for a starter who didn't even play most of the snaps. You got Antoine Bruce, Vaughn Bennett. He's ready to light things up this year. Nelson Jones, the rookie. We'll see if he's got a role. And defensively now, I think, have added enough pass rush. And I now think we have the secondary that can make this the best, most complete defense that we have had. What is Jake Moody doing, though, missing 2 field goals? We're going to make one more move here just for some depth. It's going to be signing veteran Jordan Davis. All right, I think we're about ready to put this team to the test. We began as the worst team, and now we've got a chance, I think, to go and chase a title. Hopefully the offense is good to go without Chris Olave. We didn't really get the offense improved significantly outside of just solidifying the left tackle spot, which could play a big role. And then, will the secondary allow us to put together an elite defense this season? Let's go, everybody. We start the year 0-2. That includes a division loss to the Carolina Panthers. This one went to overtime. Got a good game from Antoine Bruce, but gave up a huge game to Dwight Shelby. That's massive. And the Chargers put 31 on this defense that I had high hopes for. No passing touchdowns allowed, but they got 31. And somehow this team is 0-3. So the defense has their best game so far, but the offense can't do their job entirely. Bruce held to 3.8 yards a carry. Ben Johnston continues to rack up a lot of yardage. And that's with Vaughn Bennett listed as our slot receiver. Like, Bennett is just not having the start to the year I expected. Offense continues to struggle, but the defense dominates Chicago. It's 14-7. We got 2 interceptions off Gordon Strickland. Struggled to get much going offensively, but at least we score that first win. And Peter Ellis, 2 interceptions, half sack, 8 tackles. Big reason why we finally got on the board. We reach our Week 7 bye, and now the Saints get to 3-3. The offense finds their stride in these last 2 games, both of which were multi-score victories, a little bit closer to what I was expecting from us. Even A-Chain got into the end zone in this game. How about 2 interceptions here? Even Jonathan Camp got into the game in this one. He and Bowman picked off passes. Good day here for Eli Rushing, our franchise quarterback. 4.9 yards a carry. Ben Johnston, I don't know what it is, but it seems to be his year. Pretty good day as well for the pass rush. That feels really good. So we're at the trade deadline. And right now the offense is 7th in points scored, 14th in points allowed. We're really good in the yardage category. Hopefully the points start to fall a little bit. Our leading receiver right now is Ben Johnston in catches, in yards, in touchdowns. I had to double check if he was our slot receiver on the depth chart, and he's not. But this guy's a playmaker. Really quiet start to the year for Deshaun Godwin, who doesn't have a sack yet, but Devontae Young is helping make up for it. We're going to trust the team we have going the rest of the way. And I'm not sure what's really going on. We've had some close losses, but I don't think this defense is anywhere near as good as I expected after all. We ranked pretty well at the deadline. I thought we were moving in the right direction, getting 3 straight victories, 7, 11, 20 points allowed, and then more than that in the next 4 games straight. Yeah, the offense has taken a step back. We're allowing far too many points, but hey, at least we have a run defense, I guess. I wasn't even trying to build a great run defense. I just cannot believe this. We're 4-9. I've done, a few of these worst team rebuilds, and it's been a pretty gradual step forward with year 5 being a playoff season. I expected the same here. And just nothing's going our way, and the defense ain't as good as I thought they'd be. Maybe our secondary was just better last year. I don't know. We had one of the best offenses and defenses on paper last year, but a young team and the talent still had room to grow. I thought by supplementing the roster and just moving on to the next year, we'd be in for a big season. Week 18 and we're 7-9. The division is not going to happen, and I can't imagine a wild card is reachable. The Commanders are 9-6-1. We can't make it. And we end the year 8-9, not even 500. As this defense, the pass defense primarily, was not what I expected. Devontae Young got his 10 sacks, and Julius Griffith had his best ever pass rush season. However, it seems we got a major sophomore slump out of Deshaun Godwin, who put up 6 sacks as a rookie and regressed in all areas this year. And that's despite playing almost the exact number of snaps. We definitely got some takeaways, and a couple of our newcomers were reasons why. Norwood and Ellis had 7 combined. Norwood had 10 pass breakups. And then offensively, in those first 6 games, rushing had 10 touchdowns, no interceptions. After that point, 15 touchdowns, 10 picks. That's not franchise quarterback football, playoff football. So like 10 touchdowns between weeks 7 and 17, because he had 5 in the finale when we were already out of it. Like, we just won 4 games at the end, and closing out with a 4-game winning streak. We're still done. That's just pathetic. We waste a really good year from Antoine Bruce. I don't know, man. This wasn't what I expected it to be at all. I really thought we had a good team for this year. It's not like our pass rush was even bad. We were still in the top 5 in sacks, the only way I get to measure it. And then for scoring defense, that's, average to below average. I think we just stunk in close games. What was our 1-score game record? We were only 3-5 in 1-score games, and maybe 1 or 2 more victories would have made us a playoff team. We were 8-9. So sometimes the margins are just that thin. We weren't good enough, and that's going to be it for our 5-year journey here with the Saints. Took over the worst team, and we certainly made them better. Couple playoff appearances, and now more of a middle-of-the-road team. I guess I'm curious what the future would hold for this team after I leave. So we're going to put everything on automatic and go through at least one more season. Going through a season 6 where I didn't control anything for this team. We simulate to the postseason, and the Saints are 13-4. So they're in fine shape. I wonder what they did as far as quarterback goes, because I never got rushing under a long-term deal, and they were able to make it work. So this is basically the offense that I built. Every starter here was already here in year 5. I did not think they'd get a deal done with rushing, and the CPU did it. I'm impressed. To the defensive side, and you got Ellis there, Norwood. They're bumped up to superstar now. That's pretty sweet. And they got a hidden dev rookie here. So they added George Karlaftis. They also added another edge rusher here in Hoskins, and then Greg Newsome. And they swapped out safeties here. So a few new starters, a few more defensively, and the defense stunk in my year 5. So go ahead and make a couple more changes. And now New Orleans goes all the way to the Super Bowl. 6 years after being the worst team in the NFL. Wow. 89 overall offense too. That's pretty awesome. So my challenge was for 5 years, and this is not going to count as like a success for me if they end up winning the Super Bowl. Wow, Ben Johnston, he just became like an elite receiver at age 29 and 30. All right, it's great to see that he outperforms Von Bennett twice. This is ridiculous. How about the sack numbers this season? Griffith led the team. Nobody else was quite as good. 4 picks, that's it. Whatever, they're in the Super Bowl. However, they did not win it. The Tennessee Titans defeat us 20-17. And it looks like that's going to be the end of our worst team rebuild here in Madden 24. Took a lot longer than it should have, and thank you for those that have, enjoyed this little mini series and get excited for these videos. I've wanted to try to get a little more creative and just bring more different ideas to the channel, and I'd like to do a lot more of these worst team rebuilds. I think they're really fun. Although I think that breaking it up into 5 videos and maybe having a 5-hour series, is that time investment worth what the series ultimately is? I think it's fun to see the starting point, go through and build, but having it take up so much time might not be ideal. I'd like to continue doing this and find a way that suits my style that doesn't take quite as much time to get through. I'm hoping to be a little more creative as we approach 2024 and get into the new year, and I try to look at what I can do better on this channel. So if you'd like to see more of these worst team rebuilds, definitely let me know. Leave a like, leave a comment. And if you'd like me to stay in this same franchise and you'd like to know who the next team would be, the worst team in the NFL now is no longer the New Orleans Saints. It would be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a division rival who won 2 games. I think we did a pretty good job, though, in this series. I did not draft the quarterback, but I put the pieces around him. Built up the offensive line, added some really good playmakers, and eventually, I think, got good enough defensively. We just couldn't capitalize in year 5. I ended up drafting the player who became the best running back, though, accumulating 1,700 yards in this season. Surprisingly, Vaughn Bennett did not stay on the same course he was on when we drafted him number 1. As it turns out, this team might have a new number 1 receiver after a dominant season out of Ben Johnston. Normal dev, though, that's just gross. The guy had 1,200 yards receiving, 13, and 17 touchdowns. Ain't nothing normal about that. We're also a step closer to the slow sim rebuilds returning to the channel. I have one more thing I'd like to do, as I want to go back to Madden 06, do a little fun one-off rebuild video, and then full steam ahead as we look to start up the first big Madden series in a while on this channel. Thank you again for supporting. I'm looking forward to your feedback as I craft plans for the future going into the new year. Have a great day, everybody. I'll see you in what's next. Have a great day.